Hello, I'm Travis Fontenot, the Executive Director here at the Dixie Center for the Arts. I want to thank you for being one of our supporters by watching this Theater Talk Tuesday series. These interviews give you an in-depth behind-the-scenes look at the many jobs in the performing arts world. These artists share their stories and journeys with us, the good and the bad, in hopes of inspiring you and giving you a deeper appreciation of the arts. Your support means everything to us, and we rely on patrons like you to help small nonprofits like us remain open for the future generations. To further help us, you can make a donation by clicking on the donation link in the video description. Thank you, and enjoy Theater Talk Tuesdays. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of a Theater Talk. Today, I am joined with Mandi Mueller. She was with the Victory Bells with the National World War II Museum in New Orleans. You may remember them. They made a trip to the Dixie in November of 2018. It's a phenomenal performance. And Mandi was with them for a very long time, and we actually went to college together. So I've known Mandi for a while. Hi, Mandi.
Hi. I know we won't talk about how far about that goes back.
Uh, you know, so we both studied theater together. But what I want to start out with is, when did you know that you wanted to follow the theater, follow performing? When did you get that bug?
I think at a very young age, I knew and my parents knew that I wasn't going to take this traditional track through life, if you will. I was going to beat my own drum. And I guess it was closer to, I'd always done some little, community theater things growing up and even participated in a Missoula Children's Theater when they came into town, but it really wasn't until I guess eighth or ninth grade. I had a phenomenal theater teacher, and I was studying straight theater at the time, not musical theater. And she just instilled this drive in me, um, and so I give her credit for it. But that's when I knew she had us study everything. We had to make an 85 or above on this test before we could move on to in the freshman class, and before we could move on to actually studying it for the rest of our rest of our high school career. And so it really forced you to push and decide whether you wanted to do this or not. But I had to learn how to hang a light and everything else. So well rounded in ninth grade, but that's kind of when the bug really stuck, and when I kind of started easing my parents into the fact that I was gonna do this for a very long time.
Yeah, God bless those teachers when they
Yeah.
inspired. And I didn't have theater growing up. I did church plays, and so I knew
Mhm.
I liked. I didn't know how to be involved. We didn't have a community theater in my
Yeah.
town, and it wasn't until my summer after graduating high school. I knew I wanted to study theater. I knew I liked it. I knew I enjoyed it. I just didn't know how to be involved.
Right.
And I'm already accepted into college, into the theater program with no experience. Like, I don't know what I was thinking. I saw a friend post, they were doing Annie on, it wasn't Facebook because Facebook wasn't around yet.
No.
It was on, I think we were just talking on an instant messenger. And I was
Mhm.
like, "What are you doing this summer?" And she lived 30 minutes away. And she was like, "I'm doing Annie at the community theater." And I was like,
I
"How? When? How do I get involved?" And then I went. And so that was my first experience, was right before I entered a college program.
That's
So,
incredible.
yeah.
And had such a successful career in college, and it's I think that's the beauty behind people that are, as we say, made for the theater. Um, I've always said that the biggest quality and what I am most grateful for of all my friends within the theater and everyone that I've come in contact with is there's no fear of taking risk. Um, and whether there is fear internally, they don't let it show. And that's the beauty behind what theater and what drives you to keep moving forward is that lack of fear in the risk of failing, because
Absolutely.
you just kind of keep going. You fail once and it's like, all right, well, that didn't work, so let's try this. So that's fantastic.
I was not as successful in my college career. And Northwestern was very competitive. It was
Yes,
a pretty big department, and someone like me going in with no experience, I was really at the bottom of the rung. And looking back, I feel like when I graduated, I was at the same experience level as some of the incoming freshmen. And no one's path is alike, and which is fine. And it's like you said, there's no fear, it's determination. I
mhm,
knew what I wanted and was capable on the inside, and I kept fighting even though I had professors critiquing at the end of the year. We got those end of the year kind of critiques
right,
saying, maybe maybe this isn't for you, maybe you need to change your major. And I get it, I wasn't holding my own. I wasn't carrying the same weight as a lot of people. I didn't know how. Plus, I had
right,
to work. So I just didn't have the time to put into it.
right,
Knowing what I know now, like it is truly almost a 24-hour job, especially in college, to do it. So, but I persevered. I wasn't afraid, and I kept pushing. I didn't
right.
let anyone, even my professors, tell me no.
Exactly. I heard the same thing freshman year, if it makes you feel any better.
You know, and
um,
and
yeah,
you are a triple
did
threat.
I go into technical theater
You,
because
and
I didn't have a strong enough singing voice.
oh God,
And
you're a
yeah,
phenomenal singer.
thank you. Um, but it like you were saying that I took that in and acknowledged everything that they were saying and said, okay, I take that, and that means I have to work harder.
Yes.
And that's what it did. It really pushed, whether they meant to do that or not. But it really forced me to work even harder within myself and within my community, of our little community within Northwestern. Yeah, so
Yeah, Northwestern has a phenomenal program.
I'm always in
Musical
awe of every.
theater and everything. They've done some great shows. It's really competitive.
Yes,
It does prepare you for the real world. In the real world, when auditions and stuff, that it is very competitive. So I'm
absolutely.
grateful for that kind of education.
I'm
Um,
grateful for all the no's because I feel like a lot of people coming out of college haven't heard that yet. And so it's sometimes it's hard when you get out of college and you're going into New York or into the actual world of auditioning for professional theater. And the first time you hear that no is devastating. And I'm so thankful that I heard so many no's beforehand to take those and learn how to function from the no and how to build and grow from the no. And that's something I thoroughly enjoyed about Northwestern, I guess, if you will. Looking back on it, not in the moment.
Absolutely, it's always rough in the moment, but with hindsight, it's you know what, I wasn't ready, and it was kind of the same for me. I mentioned it in a previous interview for grad schools. I went for years auditioning for different grad schools. I knew I
Mhm.
wanted to pursue something different and got so many no's. But when that yes finally came, everything in my life seemed to fall into place. So it was time. So the no's really do prepare you for the yes.
Agreed, agreed. And it makes it so much more special that yes, you hear and you're so much more grateful for it. And I think that's why people in theater push themselves so hard when they are in shows, and when they do get that role, you find that they push themselves so hard and they do make this a 24/7 job, which it is. But it's because they've heard those no's and they're so grateful for those yeses, because it only takes one yes. Um, but you have to hear a million no's before you can get to that yes.
Absolutely.
So
And the best way to start out is in your community theater. Get
absolutely.
involved, and like you said, you had to hang lights. You do all
Hmm.
these things. You get to know every aspect, and those things get your foot in the door, and it gets you learning. That's the main thing.
Hmm.
Learn all you can about your profession,
Right.
and then you'll be that much better when you do hear those yeses, and you can apply that knowledge to multiple levels.
So as you were saying in the beginning, I was one of the original Victory Bells in New Orleans, and I got that job right out of college. I went out on a whim. I ended up moving home for a little bit, which every college graduate loves to do.
Where
Uh,
is home?
Home is Gonzales, Louisiana. Technically Sorrento, but if you don't know where that is, it's the Gonzales area right outside of Baton Rouge.
Where are you now?
I'm in New Orleans now. So my husband and I've been in New Orleans since I got the job with Victory Bells about a little over 10 years ago now. And I was one of the original here in New Orleans. There was only three of us. And in December of 2009, I signed a 3-month contract with the Victory Bells. And then a decade later, um, but yeah, so it was this beautiful thing, and I always said that my goal was to be successful within theater and within the arts. And to me, I guess in my head and my younger self, that meant New York, and that was the only thing that meant. And something else that I learned at Northwestern through a lot of our classes was that New York wasn't the only place to pursue theater, and it wasn't the only place to have a career, a successful career in the arts. And I appreciate that so much, and I don't think enough students hear that or encouraged to pursue that.
Absolutely. And we've been interviewing people from a variety of backgrounds and who are working in different jobs in the arts. And some of
Right.
them are from New York, are
Yeah.
currently in New York, and some of them are still residing in Louisiana. And that's one of the things I want to show to our community, my community, and the people in and around here who might want to pursue the arts. It's not always the pinnacle, New York. People think that is think of it as the CEO equivalent of most jobs,
Right.
if you will.
Right.
We'll compare it that way. Not everybody wants to be the
Right, right.
CEO.
And of course, I always joke about, I'm like, if the Broadway calls, I'm answering, but I found my job as a Victory Bell, and serendipitous things happen. While I was living at home, my grandmother actually lives with my parents as well, and so it was three generations of women in the same house, and we are very similar. The apple does not fall far from the tree, so we'll just say that. But I love them dearly. But I woke up one morning with a 1 inch by 1 inch newspaper clipping that I still have, taped to my door, and a sticky note on it that my grandmother left, and it just said, "Your papa would have loved this." And my grandfather was a World War II veteran, and it was the audition notice for the Victory Bells. Sure, I'll do this for a little while, and 3-month contract turned into a decade of work, and I traveled the globe performing for veterans and active duty military, performing at USOs and bases across the world. It was incredible. And
The
then ended
Victory
my
Bells have
Victory Bells. Yeah, there
they've
it's
grown and expanded.
yes, yes. It started out with just three of us, and last year I think there were 14. Um, and we also have a satellite troupe in New York as well. So there are three girls in New York that travel and do shows up there as well.
That's
But yeah, my
amazing.
career ended in Normandy, on the beaches of Normandy. That was my last show. There was a cruise for the 75th anniversary of D-Day, and so my very last Victory Bell show, it ended actually with the World War II veterans singing "God Bless America" to us, overlooking the cliffs of Dover. So
Wow.
I
That
was like,
I'm getting chills just thinking about
it was surreal, and there's no topping that. And so at that moment, I was like, this is it.
it. Go
Nothing
out
else
on
can
top.
top this. Yeah, go out on top. So
Quite literally, the hills of North. So, but,
right.
yeah, so you spent 10 years with film.
Hmm.
Let's back up a little bit. So at our time at Northwestern, we were pretty much there the same time. And then you became Miss Lady of the Bracelet.
I
How
did.
did that how did you bring the arts in with that? How did that affect you?
It's interesting. We talked about hearing all of those no's. I actually didn't get cast that semester, and I desperately, we all know that feeling. I desperately wanted to be on stage. I was craving it, and I needed it, and I just wanted to be on stage. And then I randomly passed a notice for Miss Northwestern, and they had a talent competition, and I said, "All right, this is my excuse to sing." Um, and I had sorority sisters. I was in borrowed dresses and swimsuits, and they were still doing swimsuit at the time. Um, and and just basically did it because I wanted to sing. Um, and I was first runner up my first year, kind of got bit by the bug, and and then I won the year after. But I will say that first runner up, my next year of college, half of my tuition plus room and board were covered. And then once I won, my entire last year of college was completely covered, um, room and board, as well as getting a stipend for buying a wardrobe for Miss Louisiana. Um, it was an incredible experience. Um, I made, I made, but I competed for 2 years within the Miss America organization, and I made $17,000 in scholarship money.
Wow.
So any girl that can even recite a poem, I encourage you to compete in the Miss America organization, because even if you don't win, I never won Miss Louisiana. I won talent and placed in the top 10, but $17,000 later towards my college career was huge. And so I think they focus a lot on talent. They put a huge percentage of your score on talent, and that for me was big. It was the first time I was on stage, and I was myself, which is weird to say, because normally in theater we're acting, we're someone else. You become someone else. You take on this role, and you take on their characteristics. So it was a very new thing for me to be comfortable with myself on stage, and not putting on an act, if you will.
Absolutely.
Um, so yeah, so that was it was a wonderful experience. I adored every second of it. It was hard work. Uh, so juggling the duties of Miss Northwestern on top of the duties, as you were saying, that department is 24/7. Um, was was hard, but absolutely worth it. Um, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat. So it was fun.
And so you're something of a triple threat, or what we typically call a triple threat. The definition has now morphed into other
Right.
things. But a triple
Yeah.
threat is normally singer, dancer, actor
Correct.
in the most traditional sense.
Right.
Uh, Tell us about your training beforehand. You must have started that before college.
I definitely started singing and acting before college, and I kind of dabbled in dance, but really hadn't taken any dance classes before college. It had come naturally to me, which I was very lucky. And so I kind of got away with being aware of my body enough to copy people. So when we were working on choreography in high school and things like that, for different shows, I was very blessed in the ability to copy what a choreographer was teaching, um, and know enough about my body and be aware enough that I could make that happen. But Northwestern is where I really, really honed in on the technique behind all of that. So it was a lot of unlearning things and then relearning the correct way. Um, but that was fun. It was definitely another challenge.
Yeah, as a theater major, I had to take dance as well, and
Hmm.
I had never had a dance class in my life, and so I took jazz and I
Yep.
took tap, both beginning classes, and
Yeah.
I was definitely it didn't come as natural to me, as you said it did for you. I definitely had to in class listen and write everything down and try, and then I had to go home, sleep on it, absorb it, process it, practice tapping on my kitchen floor. It took me a couple of days. College is like every other day class or,
Right.
Tuesday, Thursday type thing. So I had time in between to process, and I definitely needed that time, that extra time for me. Everyone's a little different.
Right.
And I hope that
Absolutely.
people out there kind of understand my path and Mandy's path completely different. We're both still working in the business,
Mhm.
so don't think of it as if it doesn't come natural to you, if
Correct.
it doesn't come easy to you. It's never too early or too late to start, and it's never one way for something to happen. It just
Right.
sometimes takes perseverance and trying again.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I agree with that 100%. And there were definitely times where we got into the beginning classes might have been a little easier for me than you were having, but when we got into the intermediate and the advanced, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I
And that
didn't
makes
even try those classes. I did my 2 beginning classes, got those requirements, and I was done. I fought hard, ended up making a C in tap. I felt like I deserved to be, but don't we always feel like we deserve it? I
agree.
worked
You
hard
worked
for
very
this.
hard.
I worked, yes. And when I got that C, I was like, I passed it.
I passed. Yes, yes. And
It was hard
those
work,
classes were hard.
So you had 10 years of the Victory Bells. And you had other things going on during that time. Can you tell us something more about your journey in those 10 years of the Victory Bells, the other kind of contracts and things you had going on?
Yeah, so I did quite a bit of community theater and professional theater within the Victory Bells, including taking a summer away from the Victory Bells to work words to work in Hershey Park in Pennsylvania, and that was a very entertaining experience. I really loved every second of it. Getting to know my cast, I'm still very good friends with a lot of them. Um, and so even just working in the theme park was really fun. We've had 4 to 5 shows a day outside during the summer, and contrary to what I thought, my little southern self, I was like, I'm going up north, and they don't know what summer is. They're not from Louisiana. It was hot, let me tell you.
I've never worked in a theme park, so
Yep,
I'm definitely
yep,
intrigued by this.
yes,
Tell me more.
yes. So the show was called Crystal Sneakers, and it was Cinderella meets High School Musical. So I played one of the evil stepsisters in the show, and got to sing a Madonna song in the middle of the talent show, and so it was really fun. Lots of fun music. They integrated basically the storyline of Cinderella, but took popular music, including a lot of High School Musical numbers, and so we were in about 2.5 inch, 3 inch heels, character shoes, doing hip hop and singing "Get Your Head in the Game," and outdoors in the middle of summer in Pennsylvania. But it was really fun. I think I was 24, 25 at the time, and playing a high schooler, so I took that as a good compliment as well. In fact, I distinctly remember I made a very good friend with a World War II veteran. He ended up his group came to the museum to see a Christmas show that the Victory Bells were doing, and after the show we got to talking, and then we ended up singing together because he was telling me about how he sings in his church, and he's always in the living Christmas tree. And it was just a beautiful soul, beautiful moment. Unbeknownst to either one of us, it was being filmed. So it ended up on the news, and he got interviewed in his hometown. And and in the interview, he says, "Well, she couldn't have been more than 18," and it was like 2 years ago, and we're the same age. And I had the biggest laugh, and so ended up, sharing the story because someone had sent it to me, and shared, this is my new favorite friend. He says I'm no more than 18. I love this man. So it started a friendship from there. We got to be good friends, and we've unfortunately lost him, but we got to be very good friends with his family, and it started. So we always laugh over my couldn't be more than 18 started our friendship.
It's the small things in life that make it so much better, like someone confusing our age for something else.
Exactly, I'll take it.
What other things you did out of the realm of Victory Bells?
So a lot of professional theater within the New Orleans community, and so what I love about the New Orleans community is, you would think it's comprised of a lot of community theaters, which there are, and those are fantastic. But a lot of these theaters are moving towards actually paying their actors, whether you're a leading role or you're in the chorus. Um, which is incredible. So they're paying every aspect of the actors on stage, to the technicians backstage, and to the creative team who puts the show together, which is fantastic. And so it's moved up more and more throughout the years, and it's been really fun to see. And so I've done a lot of things within the New Orleans community. And I guess most recently, I got to play Nellie Forbush in South Pacific, which was kind of a combination of my theater career and my bells career kind of combining, and doing a show set in the 1940s. But it was incredible fun. That cast was stellar, and so lots of shows within here. White Christmas and Hairspray. Just to name a few. I did Gypsy as well. I played Gypsy Rose. That was a really fun experience.
I can imagine.
So it was. I've done a lot of shows and a lot of other theater inside of New Orleans, and then once I started deciding that I was moving kind of towards retiring, as we call it, with the Victory Bells, um, I started pursuing other things within the arts, desperately trying to find a job that allowed me to be creative during the day, but still a steady paycheck. And ended up finding a company that fabricates and builds and brings to life all of these incredible exhibits. So they've actually done all of the fabrication work for the exhibits at the National World War II Museum. So if you've ever been to the museum, the company that I worked for was the ones that they built all of that. So that's how I found out about them. And then they also have done all the fabrication and production for the NFL Draft, the NBA All-Stars Weekend, and Essence Festival. It's and so I was lucky enough to get a job within them as a project coordinator. And so I was working in the trenches, and more of the project, more of the technical side of theater, if you will. So back to that ninth grade class of hanging lights, um, put it into, I was like, okay, let me go back and remember what a Fresnel is, and and all of this. And so it was incredible. So working within the arts, in a different facet, and within entertainment, was really incredible. And so bringing that experience to life for guests of these huge venues that we were doing, and then working on these projects for months, and then seeing them on TV. My husband's a huge sports fan, so anytime the NFL draft was on, I was like, we did that.
Probably like that one piece right there. That's where this gray hair came from, or I broke a nail, or something.
Yep. Be like, I personally put that on the truck and have the gray hair to prove it.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's so it was really fun. And then like a lot of us in the entertainment business, 2020 threw us some punches. And so I ended up, along with hundreds of others within our business, millions of others within our business, was laid off in March. So it's been a lot of time at home, and really, because the entertainment business isn't there, it's you can't function safely within the communities and keep the entertainers, the technicians, and everyone else, including the audience, safe at the moment.
Absolutely. And that's where these interviews kind of came from, is I
Yeah,
wanted to still connect with our audience and our community, but also offer
absolutely.
some kind of educational outlet out there, or people to understand and appreciate more what goes into the arts. People just see what's on stage. They don't
Right,
see the other side of it. And yeah, a lot of it is what you see, the spectacle
right,
of it. But there's lots of planning and opportunities and jobs and paychecks behind the scene.
correct.
And yeah, live. A lot of people are going to digital
Right.
performances.
I've done quite a few
It's
theaters.
not the same.
No,
For us, it's not. We don't connect. You don't have that human interaction, that
correct.
camaraderie, and it's also felt on the audience. Like, I've watched different things
Yeah.
streaming here and there, like Hamilton.
Mhm.
It's an amazing visual thing, but I was lucky enough. I was in New York, and there was a line outside of like 3 or 4 people, and I was like, why not? Let me go stand and let me see. and they had some cancellation tickets.
Oh,
So I was lucky enough to see Hamilton in person. It was right after the filming. They filmed in June
right,
2016.
right, right.
I saw it in August 2016. So I was blessed enough to be able to see it live.
Right.
They're both amazing, but I mean,
I
just
know.
like watching a concert or listening to a CD or streaming music now, or seeing them in live in person. Which one would you rather?
Correct. And it,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, it's, and like you were saying on the performer, I've done quite a few of those videos where I think I've done a video for every theater that I've worked for in the New Orleans area. Um, at this point, putting out some sort of performance because the audiences are craving it, and so are the performers, and it's not the same, and it's not as, you're kind of left with like a little jolt in your heart, but not enough to kind of keep you going, because it's, well, I got to sing today, no one reacted, and so it's been, I don't want to say disheartening. That's not the right thing. I've been
It's not
loving
quite
to be able to show
scratching that
support.
itch that we need,
Correct,
because
correct. That's a
so
good way
much
to put it.
comes from hearing the audience, hearing not it's not necessarily the claps at the end, but you
So,
hear them, you feel their joy, you feel their excitement, like their energy feeds you.
yes,
It's hard to get that through this, especially if it's pre-recorded.
right, right.
And it's just out there, and you're at home, and I'm like, okay, my thing's going live right now. Like,
Yeah,
let me drink my soda and watch this, and it's like,
right. Yeah,
not
so
the
many of
same as
them.
an audience member.
Mhm.
And so when I saw Hamilton, it was still beautiful, and I got to see very close up aspects of it. And I was
Right,
like, I didn't pay the exorbitant amount of prices that
right.
I got a relatively cheap ticket.
Yeah.
So I was lucky. There's cancellation tickets out there. So if you're
Yes,
ever
totally
in New
get that.
York, or seeing tours, not so much. Tours are generally cheaper. So if you get to
They
see
are.
Broadway shows on tour,
Yep,
they're
Broadway
often much
quality on tour.
cheaper, and pretty much 99% the same show.
Yep.
So, but if you're ever in New York, side tip, there's always cheaper tickets available through other outlets, reputable ones like TKTS, Playbill.com, or the theater themselves if people cancel their tickets. Or
Correct.
there are tickets on hold for producers or
Mhm.
for performers in the show, like Mandi,
Yeah,
or other people. They have tickets available set off for them, set on the side. And if they don't need them for that night's performance, they'll
right.
tell the box office, hey, you can get rid of them.
Yeah,
So they'll in turn, since I was waiting in line, they were like, okay, you're next. You want a cancellation ticket? And I got one for much cheaper because it wasn't being used.
correct.
So tidbit, you
Yes,
can
when you go to New York, you can see a
always
show, no
expensive.
excuse. Theaters were struggling before this, and I'm hoping that, my hope is that with all of this, everyone sees. I know we're all tired of watching reruns on TV. We've seen everything. My guilty pleasure is HGTV, and normally I'm not home enough to watch anything. And so at the beginning of all of this, I kind of went down a rabbit hole of binging anything that HGTV had to offer. Um, and watching people flip houses, and watching Hometown is a good favorite of mine, and now I've seen them all, and so I know I've been hearing the same thing from my friends, and it just kind of triggered something when me, when I know we've had a lot of, there's always talk about, do we need the arts? Do we need to keep funding the arts? Do we need to encourage our children to keep pursuing careers in the arts? And I think that on a very small scale, this is exactly why we do, and why all of those things are relevant,
Mhm.
because we don't want to watch reruns. We as a human race love to be entertained. We crave that. And there are, the lack of a better word, and I mean it out of love, the crazy few of us that love to do the entertaining, and love to put that on, and have this drive within us, as we were saying earlier, that we crave that audience interaction, and we crave that everything about this business, that may not be as glamorous to other
Yep.
people. And so it's so important to, if you have the drive for it, to go for it, because we need you. And I think one of the biggest things I was ever told was, when asking, what's your advice for someone pursuing the arts? They said, if you can see yourself doing anything else, do it. Do it. Because it's hard. But if you can't see anything else and you won't be happy with anything else, then this is for you.
Absolutely.
Go for it. Prepare yourself for the no's because they will happen 9 times out of 10. And that one yes is going to be beautiful. Um, and it sparks other things, and you start making a community, and you start meeting new people, and it's just fun. So that was my spiel on, we have to support the arts, and you have to continue pursuing the arts.
Absolutely. It is a definite need in our society, no
Yeah,
matter what the situation's going on.
correct.
Even when COVID is no longer
Yes,
tormenting us,
I can't
but
wait for the day.
so many people during this time have resorted
Mhm.
to streaming entertainment,
Yes.
streaming concerts, streaming plays somewhere else, and
Mhm.
we crave it. We need it. We want that
Right.
escape from
It's a
reality
great
for a
way.
little
Yeah,
while.
yeah, you're right. It's such an escape. It takes us out of our normal everyday lives. And just for a second, we're allowed and we're given that opportunity to escape to a different place. Whether it be Arendelle or, with Hamilton, or hometown in Laurel, Mississippi.
Right, it's something so
Yeah,
different. Hey, I've watched Frozen 2 at home, you
yeah,
know, I
same.
bought it. The music, it's stuck,
It gets
it's
stuck.
it's entertainment, whether it was made for kids or not. It was still like, hey, it was a great
Right.
story of female empowerment, of sisters, of it was a beautiful art piece. I even watched the making of it behind the scenes.
Good.
It was so interesting, which okay, it's in the vein of the arts,
Mhm.
but they were writing music, they were writing the scripts. All of that goes into the arts. It's
Right.
just in a different medium. And it was so fascinating watching all of that and be like, that sounds so fun to do.
Yeah.
Like the story needs something right here. What do we need?
What
And
do
then they
we
talk
need?
about what does the character want to say? And then they write the songs based off of it. And the story was almost completely different.
Mhm.
And then I was like, that was amazing. So
Yeah.
this I'm getting so excited again.
I know.
There's so many different careers, so many different avenues within the
Right.
arts that one can pursue. So if you get
Correct.
any behind the scenes shows going on, go watch them. I used to love watching Face Off. Face Off is a special effects makeup competition, and
Cool.
it was amazing the things they did. So if you get a chance, go watch that. It's really fun to watch that with kids too. They get to see them sketch out things, their inspiration. Then they take the clay, put it on the mold, make these masks, make these characters, and
Yeah.
then they paint them and do all this stuff, and they show them and they tell their story. It's amazing. Go
It was
watch it.
incredible. It was so good to watch. I encourage anyone that has even the slightest desire to pursue the arts or even interested in the arts, go dive into your community, because within your community there are other people just like you. I promise. Um, and you'll find your niche, or as we like to say, you find your people.
Yeah,
And so, find them. They're out there, I promise. Whether it might be 30 minutes away, but they're there, and they're craving you just as much as you need to be around them.
absolutely. I was living in a small town. I'm from South Louisiana, and the nearest community theater to me was a minimum of a 25-minute drive. And so I was in my adult life, I was a teacher right out of college when I was really heavily involved in theater. So I would wake up in the morning, teach all day, at the end of school have rehearsal with my students till 5:30, drive, get something to eat on the road, go to whatever theater I was involved with, rehearse there from like 6 to sometimes 10 o'clock at night,
Mhm.
come home, study my lines more for whatever or grade paper, whatever I was doing, and do it all over again the next day.
Yep, been there. And I think That's the beauty of everyone that's in the arts. Kind of what we were talking about at the beginning, that drive, that people who truly love the arts and who thrive in it, in that environment. It's anything and everything you have to do to pursue it, and to make the product at the end of the day for the audience this beautiful experience.
Mhm.
Um, and so that's theater. There's nothing else like a theater, like theater people. They,
Absolutely. You know, and that's one
yeah,
of the beauties of community theater is it does take place in the evenings.
yeah,
So people can have their normal life,
yes,
their 9 to 5, and
mhm,
still are able to fulfill that need, that desire, or that creative spark in the evenings. That's one of the fantastic beauties of community theater. And Ruston Community Theater uses my venue to perform in. And I love watching what they're doing. And they have an amazing involvement, amazing support behind them. And they're steadily increasing their production quality. It's amazing to see them grow and keep doing what they're doing. And it's kind of sad right now. All their plans have also been shut down. But we're
they did,
all eager and trying to figure out ways to keep entertaining because we miss the connections with our people in our community. Even doing this is informational, but it's still not a true deep connection
right,
with the community.
right,
You
yeah,
know, we miss that interaction.
yeah. I also love being an audience member. Um, and I miss that so much as well. So I can't imagine, you know, you know, year long ticket holders and and members of theaters. I feel their pain as well, not just the performers.
Absolutely. I miss seeing theater too. Sometimes it's nice, if especially you and I, we were kind of leaders or administrators in our areas. Um, you spend so much time planning and going through all the details that when you sit and you watch, it's kind of like, yay, it went well.
Yeah,
But sitting there having no idea what's going to go on, you just sit back and you're able to enjoy the entire experience,
oh, that's my
and you know
favorite.
nothing about that special twist in the show or the
Yes,
special effect or the high note someone
yes.
sings, and you can just sit there and enjoy it. It is
It's
such an
one of my
amazing
favorite
feeling.
moments. As I say, like one of my favorite things about being involved in the theater is sitting back and watching my friends do work.
Do their
Um,
thing, absolutely, and I'm there like, go get
Oh,
it.
I know. You have this moment, you're like, "That's my friend. I know her." When the audience thunderously applause and you're like, "I know you."
And it's
Um,
not it's not like I'm trying to brag or anything, but
no,
I'm
no,
so
but
excited
so
they're
much
doing what they
well.
love,
Yes,
that
it's so
they're
exciting to
accomplishing
see
their
those.
dream.
Yeah,
That's what I'm really excited about. Oh my god, my friends doing what they love to do, and
yeah,
passion. When someone's passionate about the work they do, it shows, and I think that's what excites me the most. And I'm like, oh my god, that's my friend. They are killing it,
yes,
and
and
I'm not
it's
trying to brag,
utter
but
pride. There's so much pride that just explodes from you, that because we know what goes into it. We know how much hard work
right,
that must have been to even just get to this moment, this one moment that the audience gets to see how much work it was to get to that moment. Because we've been there. I sit in awe of shows when I get to watch, and just I love being entertained as much as I love entertaining.
absolutely. There's the meme out there of the iceberg. The
Yeah,
tip of the iceberg is so small, and it's like the show. And
for
the
sure.
big 90%
Oh,
of it is under, and
yeah.
that's the rehearsals. It's the memorizing scripts. It's the
Mhm.
singing that same song or the same lines over and over and over. It's
None
all
of
that
that.
stuff people don't see for
Right.
that short little payout, and it's absolutely worth it.
Yeah, and the creative team that came together, and that one little change of light that you may not have noticed, but you really did because it made you start feeling things. That lighting designer spent hours on that and designing it and working on it, and the director knew exactly what he wanted and where that actor should be standing, and it's and the costumes play into it. There's so much work, as you said, that's that iceberg. I mean, and it's a huge iceberg that doesn't get enough recognition.
Yeah, and so
But
many
it's
people shape that
really cool.
iceberg.
Yeah.
And we're covering a lot of things during these interviews, interviewing different types of people, and so hopefully we'll cover the majority of jobs that are available. And there's always some interesting twist and dynamic. Like you were saying, you worked with this production company that built events to entertain people. And so you were able to blend multi disciplines that were theatrically based into something that was not performing, but it
Mhm.
was still an entertainment value, because ultimately when someone comes into the theater, I'm building an experience for them, with the lush seating, the fabrics, the set, the costume. Everything tells a story. Even just the building as a whole
Yeah.
starts setting the scene for what you're about to experience. Before I started working here, I was interviewing them and I was like, that just sounds so fascinating to be able to work on that side, see what goes into that. um,
It was incredible, and I'm hoping to go back. Fingers crossed that that will come back and that will happen. I have faith, and I know it will one day. Maybe not as soon as we want it to, but it will happen.
Absolutely, we
And
persevere.
Yeah, we've persevered through a lot of things, and like our generation has seen a lot.
It's just another no that we've heard along our journey.
Correct. You're so right. You're so right. This is another big no, and I've been taking the opportunity to learn, um, and to educate myself more, and to with everything that's happening in the world and around us. And so it's been really refreshing with that aspect of it, and I've gotten to catch up with people that I normally didn't have time to, and so this has really taught me that I need to start making time for those things, and that I really do have more time in the day that I think that I do, because sitting at home teaches you that days are very long. And so when you say you don't have time, you probably do. It's whether you want to make time for that. So it's definitely something that I've learned, and I'll continue to take with me for the rest of my life. So
Yeah, you were just talking about you've been taking the time to learn new things.
mhm.
So what has COVID um, taught you in a sense of, or forced you to learn,
Yeah,
in arts wise? Learn some new skills, or what have you been learning?
yeah, definitely learning new skills. Definitely editing videos, um, and having to send those in. There's been quite a few times within the New Orleans community that a lot of our theaters have been using this opportunity for fundraisers, because they're not bringing in the income that they're used to be making, as you well know, during this time, because there are no performances, so there are no tickets sold, there are no, they can't make money. There's no concessions sold because there's no one in the theaters. Um, and so they've been using present and past performers to submit videos, as sort of a fundraiser kind of thing. And so a lot of those, some of them were quite entertaining. Some really funny ones. I know I submitted a "Have Yourself a Merry Little Quarantine" video. So, but then having to go back and edit that's something that I never dreamed that I would dive into. But I'd like to say I'm pretty good at it now, and adjusting volumes and and everything else. I know that, just scratch that one off. So a lot of those things, and a lot of inner learning has been done during all of this, and just really bettering myself. And we have some exciting news over here.
What's that?
So we will be expecting our future diva, hopefully dancer, on my end. I don't know
Oh,
how her father feels about that yet, but so we will have a new little diva in the house in December. So
congratulations.
thank you. So learning, so lots of mom and baby books too.
Yep.
So
It's a skill. It's, multidisciplinary. It's balancing things. And now you're gonna have some little pitter patter of feet running around and
yeah.
saying no and stop that, to quote Swiss Magnolias. Uh,
So
so
lots of things. So
congratulations.
I'll be learning how to, and I still plan on pursuing theater after this, after having a baby, and, and still continuing to work within the theater community here in New Orleans. And hopefully maybe she'll go into it too if she wants to.
So, looking back on your career, your shows, let's end with what was, I know favorites are a hard word to use. What
Right,
are some of your
right. There's quite a few.
Let's just
Okay.
say top 2 or 3 shows. If it's more, it's more, but
Okay.
what's your favorites?
Um, let's see. Gypsy was definitely up there. I That was a role. It was kind of like a dream role, if you will, but one of those that I never thought I'd have the chance to do. So it wasn't the I wouldn't have put it in my realistic dream roles um, spot, and I was given the opportunity. I went in guns ablazing to that audition and really working my tail off for it. And it worked. And So I was really thankful for that. And the woman that played opposite me with Mama Rose, I still am learning from her, and we're still very good friends. So that was an incredible role um, that taught me a lot. And then another one would be when I played Judy in White Christmas
Okay.
a couple years ago, and that was I we call my dad Father Christmas because that's his favorite time of the year. Our house is decorated to the T. And in fact, he's actually grown a beard every November and December now as well. And he goes around to all the classrooms in Gonzales to all the little kids as Santa. Um, and so
That
that's
might be
really,
me later, I don't it's
I know,
starting, but
I
it's
know. So
it's
later, you
it's
still
start
have some performing to do.
yeah.
Um,
It's starting out. The camera's
it's
flipped, so I'm
starting.
like, "What side
I
is
know,
it on?"
I know.
It's there. Just got a
Right.
haircut, so it
You-
looks like it's skin, but it's actually gray.
but and so that was really fun. I kind of felt like I had a moment of living out my childhood, my Christmas childhood. So that was really entertaining. My waistline is definitely not as small as Vera Ellen's, but no one's is. But that was really fun to take on. And then Nellie Forbush. That was um, I had been working in with the National World War II Museum for so long, for a decade, meeting all of these veterans and hearing their stories, and not just the male soldiers. It was the nurses, and we got the opportunity to meet quite a few USO performers as well, who were doing the same thing that we were doing for these troops. Um, and so just talking within them and to them, uh, being able to take all of that knowledge that I had from experiences that I had been told about, um, and really dive into the character of Nellie and what she must have felt like as a nurse during World War II, um, was really incredible. And it was at the very end of my Bell career, so I kind of ended my Bell career and then went on to play Nellie. So it was but I've loved every role. I've felt very incredibly lucky, I guess I should say, and blessed to play every role that I've played. Um, and I think some of the biggest learning moments were in the chorus. That's when you learn the most, and you get to watch the lead performers work, I guess, if you will, and how they work and their work ethic, and you learn so much from watching. So it's not just the lead performances that I've loved. I love being in the chorus. I love getting just nitty gritty and just dancing in a show, because a lot of times as the lead performer you don't get to do all the dancing, but the chorus girls get all the good stuff.
Absolutely, and, as even though you're the chorus or a townsperson or whatever the role
Yeah,
may be, you watch and you learn and observe what other people are doing, and you're like, "I want that role. What are they doing
right.
to get to that point?" And so
Yeah.
watching is the greatest
Oh,
way
it's so
to
good.
learn. When
Yeah.
I taught, to me, it was very important to take my students. We would go to New Orleans every year towards the end of the school year and use some of our funds that we had raised during our performances,
Right.
and I'd buy them tickets to the tour
Oh, I
of,
love
of,
it.
of shows and
Right.
take them to see it, as a reward, but also they had to work and earn points. But
Right.
it was very important for me for them to see other people performing, and they can be like, "Wow, I want to do that," and they experience something on a higher level than what we were doing in a high school. And
Yeah.
for me, that's I still hear from them and say, "Thank you so much." That's still a highlight of their life so far, and it was amazing. So it's absolutely true. Watch, go see
Learn.
art.
Right, and there I know we say that and you hear that, and when you're in the moment and you think you have these small roles, that this saying means nothing, and because I have been there. But there are truly no small roles because every role on stage is needed in order to tell the story, and I can't stress that enough. Um, and I talked a lot about my leading roles and my career now and what I've been doing. Um, but it was hard work to get here, and I still have to work to get it. And I still hear no's. There are still roles that I don't get when I audition, and so it's you have to start off on those smaller roles and move your way up um, and learn. And as you were saying, you have to have that first moment of this is my first show. Every performer has had their first show. So don't be afraid and don't think that you can't move forward from there. And oh well, this is my first show. It's no, no, no. This is the stepping stone. This is the first. This is the first of many. And so that's a big thing. There are definitely no small roles, and yeah,
Absolutely. I have been to some amazing shows, Broadway, off Broadway, high school, college, and every one of them has those small parts.
yeah,
But quite often, those small parts are the best because you can steal the show. They're memorable. They come out and give those one-liners, those zingers.
here we go in 2020 again.
I can still hear you though, but they quite often can steal the show, and it's amazing to do that when you walk on and just your 5 seconds, and then people were going to talk about that. Oh my god, that one point it was so funny, and you had 5 words. Like it is
Right, right.
totally possible.
Yes, or you had no lines at all, and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, that moment!" Like there are no small roles. Take
Yeah,
Hamilton. I know a lot of people have seen it at this point. But she was in the chorus, and I ended up looking her up because I was so in awe of this dancer on stage and how she was just striking, and she never stole the show, she never stole the moment, she was just in the moment so well. And then she's the one that played the bullet at the end,
I knew
called the
where you
bullet.
were going.
Yeah, yeah, and it's she's in the chorus, and of course that chorus has a huge role, and they're constantly on stage. But it's true. There are no small
Yeah.
parts.
I know, and we mean still the show. It's like as a chorus member, you're in the background, you're supposed to kind of fade in and have your own
Right,
little
correct.
personality, and you give your one little line. You might have one line, and
Mhm.
that can be the funniest line in the entire scene. So, I
Yes,
mean, there's different levels of small parts, but
absolutely.
they're the
They're
best.
the best. They're so much fun.
Well, thank you, Mandy, for
Of
joining us
course.
all the way from New Orleans. You
Thank
know,
you for having me. This has been so much fun.
me too.
Um,
It was great to catch up with you. Like you said earlier, it we follow everybody on Facebook, but we really lose track of what people are doing.
right.
You weren't
Yeah.
able to come up here when the Victory
I
Bells came.
I
You
know.
were on
I
a
was doing
contract for
another
something
contract.
else.
I know. I
We'll
know. I
have
was
you up here at some point, hopefully, when things get
I
back to
actually think that was
normal.
White Christmas.
I think it was White Christmas because I was
Yeah,
checking in with you, and you were like, "I won't be able to make it,"
I know.
but
But
you
I
were
was
trying to
excited.
surprise me.
I was because I originally wasn't on it, and then I asked, I went in, and I was like, "This is my friend. I would love to do this," because you had no clue that I was coming. So I was on it, and then I got cast in White Christmas, and I
How
had to.
dare you try to earn
I
a paycheck?
know.
I know, yeah.
So,
So,
but the
yeah,
girls thoroughly enjoyed the audience and the theater. So the theater was gorgeous. So one of these
our
days I'm gonna back up there.
our veterans love them. I
Uh,
love to bring them back,
yeah,
a
please.
few years down the line. It was an amazing show. Like, it's one of those shows that I hired, but I had no idea what went into it. So I was able to sit and enjoy the show and just take in the full experience. And it was
Yeah,
like,
it's a lot of
money
things.
well spent. It was amazing. And a lot of my patrons still talk about it.
Oh, well, good, good.
Thank
We
you
we
for
will
being one of the original
absolutely.
and for helping create such a wonderful show that is still going strong so many years later. And thank you for joining us today and sharing your
Sure.
story
Thank you
and
for
helping
having
us see that there's not just one path or one position to work in the arts.
me. I've worked them all at this point.
we will work many more.
Yes, yes, many more to come. So,
Thanks,
but
Mandy, and congratulations on your new little baby coming.
thank you very much.
Thanks. Have a good afternoon.
You too.